Hello, everybody. I want to thank you for joining us for the Nebraska Museums Association monthly museum musings. We're going to welcome John Woodward today. He is the program chair for MPMA, and we're going to talk about how to craft a successful breakout proposal. I'm going to turn it over to John.
All right, thank you. What I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to go from there. We're going to try something a little bit different today, although, well, we probably won't. I was going to try and do something that was a little bit more interactive, but with our small audience, I'll just stick with the stock presentation instead of trying to get fancy. But my name is John Woodward. I'm the Director of Museums for the Wyoming Military Department, and I'm also the chairman of the Mountain Plains Museums Association Program Committee. Our committee is part of the larger conference effort to plan our annual meetings. We're responsible for creating, or not necessarily creating, but crafting the educational content for our conference goers. So we work with presenters from across our region to develop workshops and breakout sessions to provide that continuing education component to the conference that's so important to making our lives more interesting and improving our professional skills. So my presentation today is something I've talked about quite a bit. It's how to craft a successful proposal. Now, my presentation is tailored more specifically for MPMA, but a lot of the tips and tricks that I talk about today, you can apply to other conferences, including NMA, AASLH, and AAM. Each conference is a little bit different, so you'll have to pay attention to their rules and requirements, but the general gist of it is pretty universal. So for today, we're going to talk about how to get that next great idea. Uh, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but it's your idea for your session or workshop. Next, we're going to be talking about how to decide whether to pursue that idea alone or to assemble your team to make that presentation a little bit more manageable. And there's some pros and cons related to both. Next, we'll actually talk about crafting that proposal. Again, this is where we'll focus more on the MPMA side, but a lot of those content things are the same. Then we'll look at some do's and don'ts, not only with your proposal, but also with presenting at a conference. And then finally, this is where we'll get back to sort of the more MPMA specific things. That's the conference countdowns for MPMA 2026 in Colorado Springs. So to begin with, let's talk about the next great idea. You know, ideas can come from anywhere. The best thing to do is to think about something that you wish you would have known, something that maybe as a entry-level professional, something that you're doing that would benefit other people in the field, or even just a question that you have that you'd like to explore a little bit more. There's nothing saying that you have to be the expert. You can find the experts. You can ask that question. So, you know, look at different things when you're looking for that idea. Sometimes you can find that by exploring the theme or the for a conference or the different tracks or topics that a conference uses. So you can really, take any kind of inspiration to find that next idea. I mean, take the opportunity to brag about what you're doing, toot your own horn. That's what that image there on the screen is there for. Uh, that idea, it could be something simple, it could be something revolutionary. For example, this past fall in Omaha at our annual meeting, one of the most popular workout or workshop sessions was on building ethafoam mannequins. A basic skill, but something that was very well received by the our conference goers because that's something that either they hadn't had a chance to learn before or something they needed to brush up on. So that next idea can really go from anywhere. Uh, it could also be, issues that are facing your institution. Deaccessioning and disaster management are really popular. It could be a project that you've done. Is there something that you or your institution has sponsored, maybe education or outreach? This is where you can toot your own horn. And again, something from your skill set that you'd like to share. It could be anything you really want. So this is one of the things where I was gonna, and we might try it. We have some folks. If you've ever used Slido, it's an app that allows people to interact. Um, we might hold off on this, but if you haven't had a chance to explore Slido as an app, please do. It's a way you can get some interactions within like a PowerPoint or whatnot. But maybe in this case, let's just use the chat here in Zoom. Go ahead and take a couple of minutes and think up an idea or two and drop it in the chat about what might be a good topic for a session. So let's just take a minute or two and go ahead and do that. So try and remember, I'm so used now to Google Meet. So trying to get back to the chat. There we go. All right, translating issues. That's a good question. How to do that, and especially when you're in a rural area, that can be difficult. Uh, Using technology and exhibits. That's that's easier now because technology can be more accessible, but it can also be more difficult to find someone who's willing to learn how to use that technology. AI. That's seems to be the buzzword. Um, all good ideas. A couple of years ago, I actually jumped in and did a presentation on AI. Keeping policies and procedures up to date. Great idea, great topic, and one that doesn't always get the attention that it should. Um, all of those are really good ideas. So thank you for sharing. And let's the next thing we talk about once you got your good idea. Oh, Aaron had one more. Board and volunteer recruitment. Very important, and probably one that it, uh, it can be one of the more difficult ones. So once you have your idea, so for example, those ideas you dropped into the chat, the next thing to do is, do you work on that topic alone, or do you assemble a team to make that work possible? Now, this can be difficult. Uh, I'll let you know that at MPMA, we prefer that session topics come with at least two presenters. Your session lead and one other co-presenter. But sometimes you might not have the ability to go it alone or go together with a team. So what you have to think about is who could contribute to that? Could that be a fellow staff member at your institution? Could it be a fellow museum colleague from your state, region, town, someone from another institution? Or could it be an outside professional? So going back to that list of possible session topics, board and volunteer recruitment. So if you're looking for possibilities there, that's a good opportunity to reach out to, say, your local or state nonprofit association, a community foundation, if you want to look for an outside person. Um, the topic of policies and procedures, that could be something that you reach out to, other colleagues within your county or your city. AI, That could be something where, if you have a community college or a small or an university in your community, say if you're like someone like Will Stoudemire at the University of Nebraska Kearney, if they have uh, I don't know if UNK has a computer science program, but that might be something where you reach out to, someone in that department. Um, the idea of translating and translations, that could be something where you reach out to Humanities Nebraska or maybe a nonprofit that deals with working with minority communities. So that's where you can find someone from the outside. Um, don't forget that you can always look for people within your institution that might not necessarily be uh, a museum staff member, but say a volunteer, a board member. You could also find someone who had been a professional mentor. So think about who you want, who can contribute to that topic, and reach out to them. Um, they might take the program or the idea in a completely different way. But you know, I always recommend you look for an additional presenter. That way you're not solely responsible for everything, but you can begin to craft a more well-rounded presentation. Uh, so let's look at the pros and cons of working, alone. Uh, First, you don't have to manage a group. And that can be if you have a group that's spread out over a wide area, or you have a group with people outside of your institution or outside of the museum field, that can be difficult. People have busy lives, busy professional schedules, and it can be hard to get people together to work together. Um, Working alone means you can work at your own pace, whether that's spending all the time you want or, rushing to get it together at the last minute. I'm not speaking from experience too much, but I've sat there the week before a conference, finishing up a presentation. The problem there is all the work is on you. So if you work alone, you have no one else to blame but yourself if you don't have your presentation done in time. Uh, it also means that if you're doing something special like a workshop and you need to get all of the materials together, uh, you're on your own. You don't have someone else to fall back on if something comes up at your institution or outside of in your personal life. So let's talk about working with the team. There, you get to share the workload. You have more people to rely on. You have an opportunity to collaborate with those people to help make a potentially larger or more well-rounded presentation. It also means that when you're collaborating, some ideas of yours might get cut back because you have to work within a group vision. But then at the same time, working with a group, you have other issues like making sure that everyone can travel to the conference. Um, Especially in this day and age, some of those people might not have the funding to make it. Uh, or in the example from Omaha, we had several presenters that uh, were from had submitted ideas that were from federal institutions, and we had a government shutdown. It's not the first time that that's happened. Second time that I can recall, we've had some federal folks not be able to make it. But when you have a budget crunch, travel and professional development sometimes takes a hit. So you have to worry about that. So let's talk a little bit about actually crafting the proposal. Each organization is going to have their own style and guide to what they want from presentations. There's a lot of commonalities, but be aware that you have to look at each individual organization's requirements. For MPMA, we base our presentation, we have two basic formats. A breakout session that's roughly 75 minutes. These are more of a lecture style or roundtable style discussion. Or we have workshops that can be that are typically uh, half day, which are 180-minute, or full day workshops, which are double that, 360 minutes. But most places, well, at least with MPMA, we're always open to new ideas in terms of other formats for a breakout. Just know that those, as we schedule things, it's typically around those 75 or 180 minute blocks. Presentation style. Now, your presentation, whether it's a workshop or a breakout, can follow a range of different styles. They can be a round table. So, for example, with the breakout, that could be like our uh, education swap meet, which is a perennial program at NPMA, where you come in with different ideas and you work with the group and do a round table. Um, you could do a lecture style, which is your traditional presentation where you have a group of speakers that are presenting to the audience. Uh, a hands-on style, which is more common with your workshops, where you can actually do an activity or whatnot. But there are, again, there's some flexibility there. So if you want to try something new, I don't know if interpretive dance would necessarily work that well. I know some PhD dissertations allow you to dance your dissertation, but I don't know if that would work in MPMA. But if you have a style or a something that maybe you'd like to try, um, maybe a game, maybe a scavenger hunt. I don't know. I don't know what would work, but I know that the committee, our committee at least, would be open to exploring new ideas if if you have a good proposal. The things that I always look for is in a proposal is objective. What do you, as the presenter or the session lead, want to achieve during your presentation? Now, this is what you want to do, not necessarily what you want this is more on you, not your attendees. Next, what are your outputs? This is where I ask, what do you want your audience to learn or take away from the presentation? So your objective is what you want to do. Your outputs are what you want your audience to walk away with. So, for example, if we are talking about, we'll use the idea of AI. So an objective for an AI presentation might be to discuss what is AI and how it might have a positive or negative impact on the museum field. The outputs for your audience might be something like, what are AI platforms that are currently available that are free or free, have some basic free usability? And what are some of the ways that a museum or museum staff could use those AI platforms, whether that's advertising or graphic design or you know, document editing, things like that. So think about what your objectives are and what your outputs are. So this step is more of getting back to working with a group, parceling that work out to different group members. As a session lead, it would be up to you to decide who does what and when those tasks need to be done. We'll talk a little bit about the NPMA schedule in terms of things, but realize that there's usually a few months of lead time between when your session is submitted and approved and when it's actually given at the conference. And so you won't need to have your presentation done and in the bag ready, uh, in March for NPMA, but you'll need it in October. And so you have a lot of time, several months, in fact, to get that done. So you need to know what your project schedule is and who's going to do what, and make sure everyone is held accountable to those dates. So this is where we'll focus more on, let's see, an NPMA proposal. We look first for a project or workshop title. It doesn't have to be snappy, but it needs to provide a basic idea of what you're doing. Next, we ask for a project program or workshop description. Now, this is mostly for us, but this description will often be used in the conference program. And we ask people to keep it short, 50 words maximum, because will go in a printed book, and space is money. Next, we ask for a program abstract. This is usually longer, about 150 words, and this is to provide the program committee with enough information about what you're going to be talking about and to help us make a decision. So this is where you would put your objectives and outputs. So we're aware of what you want to do and what you want your audience to learn. And then finally, for MPMA, picking your track, which is your primary topic for the presentation. Now, this is one area where we've made a change at the program committee for MPMA this year. In the past, we asked people to choose 3 different tracks or 3 different topics that their project applied to. This year, we're just asking people to choose their primary track or topic. This allows us to see, really group what topics are presented to make a more well-rounded conference program for our attendees. Some of those topics you can see in this list here are administration, archives and libraries, collections, community engagement, education, facilities, retail, visitor services, membership. So using that example of AI, that might fall under, for example, community engagement or marketing, depending on whether or not are you using that to create posters, or are you using it to create media releases? It could fall under maybe administration if you're utilizing AI to say write or revise your governing documents. Hopefully not. I don't know if I'd let ChatGPT write my museum's collections policy, but maybe you're saying maybe not. If you're talking about the topic of translations, that could be community engagement. It could be audience research. There's a lot of opportunities there. But the idea with the track is when we put our program together, we include the topic so people can begin to, or very quickly, or look through their conference program when they come to Omaha or Colorado Springs and see what topics interest them. And these tracks help them quickly identify what might be of interest to them, and then they can go back and read the full conference description. So we're going to skip this slide. I was curious to see which topics are of most interest to people. So actually what I'll do is, again, go back to the chat. What topics interest you the most? So instead of using Slido, we'll just use the chat. Pick 2 or 3 of the topics or these, and what general areas interest you the most, or interest you. So go ahead and just it'll take 5 minutes. Go ahead and look through that list and just drop in the chat what you think is the most important or the most interesting. Okay, we got exhibits and interpretation, always very important. Administration, archives, and development. Usually administration is one of the more boring topics, but it's also one of the most important. Development, absolutely, especially in this day and age. Fundraising is as important as ever. Collections. I don't know a small museum that doesn't have something related to collections they need to work on. My museum's included. Um, all good topics. Let's see. Community engagement. Absolutely. We need to be engaged with our communities to make our museums visible and relevant to our communities. So all good topics. So again, this is focusing on MPMA. You might ask why I have a picture of a mailman holding a baby in a bag. Once upon a time, you could actually send children through the mail. Yes, we have a strange country. But the idea is that child is your presentation and your proposal idea. So this is where you send it off to a program committee for review. For MPMA, our online submissions are active now. I have a link to MPMA's submission form, and I'll drop that in the chat feed before. Actually, I'll drop that in now. But I'll do it. So what I just dropped in is the link to our current MPMA submission form for the 26 conference. Uh, Online submissions are accepted through January 17th, so about a month from now. After that, what happens is our conference committee gets together and we review all the submissions and we decide which submissions we will accept and which we will reject. And over the course of the first 2 weeks in March, we send out the notices and we provide what's called a conference lead submission form. And that is for those submissions that we will include in the program. And submission lead or session leads have 2 weeks to get that form back to us. And that's where if there is a change in the submission, maybe there's a change in the description, or you've added an additional presenter or taken a presenter out. That 2 weeks allows you time to make changes and get that information back to us. Afterwards, we use those forms to put together the actual draft program that we submit to the General Conference Committee and MPMA's executive leadership for the final or the preliminary program that comes out in May and June when we open up conference registration. Each conference will do it a little bit differently and will have a slightly different review timeline as they lead up to their conference. So here's some do's and don'ts, and this falls into both the submissions and your presentation itself. First, communicate any changes you have or changes in availability. Don't wait to the last minute. So if something comes up, get a hold of the program committee for the conference immediately. The last thing that we want as a conference, as a planning committee, is to hear 2 weeks out that someone can't make it. Next, arrive early for your sessions and make sure your presentation works. The last thing you want is to get to your conference site and you find out that your laptop doesn't work with the projector, that you forgot a dangle or a dongle, or you find out that you need a microphone, or that, God forbid, there's a facilities issue in your presentation room. So get a chance to sit down. Most conferences will give you 10 to 15 minutes before the presentation starts for you to test everything out and run for help if you need it. Always with your presentation, leave 10 to 15 minutes at the end for questions. Sometimes this means you need to go out into, or if you get a lot of questions, you might need to go out into the hallway afterwards for those people to ask you questions, to give the next presenter some time to set up. But always leave time for questions. Don't go to the bell. Always come into a presentation with the idea that you can learn something. There's always somebody in the audience that might be as or more knowledgeable on a subject than you are. So always be prepared to learn. And then finally, bring all the computer equipment you might need, especially for all you Apple users out there. It's one thing for me to have, I'm a PC user. So I have the stuff that I need for my PC. But if you're an Apple, You have dongles and different attachments that you need, docking stations. Bring those with you. Uh, we can't, as a conference, and I think NMA is the same way, have the budget to buy all of the different attachments and accessories that you might need if you forget it. As a presenter, you need to be responsible for yourself, but so bring all the equipment that you need. And also bring all the materials you need for your session or your workshop. Um, and provide backups. So if you have a presentation, save it to the cloud. So if you forget your flash drive at home, you have a copy of your presentation that you can easily pull off the web. Don't. Don't wait to the last minute to finish your presentation. I am a prime example of a procrastinator who is working and finishing up their presentation 15 minutes before they presented several times. Don't wait. Don't put yourself in that position. Don't go beyond your allotted time, especially for Q&A. Like I said, it's a fine, we provide enough time at MPMA for presenters to set up. And if you are going over your time, that means you're eating into someone else's time to set up for their presentation. So if you need more time for Q&A, go out in the hallway. Give someone your business card. Carry on those conversations during one of the group events or activities or an evening event. Don't eat up someone else's time. Don't forget your laptop or presentation at home. This has happened repeatedly. Don't do it. You're an adult. Accidents happen, but have a redundancy or a backup plan just in case. Don't wait to the last minute to start any Google Teams or Google Meet to get your co-presenters online. Now, your conference may or may not allow the virtual attendance of one of your co-presenters. At MPMA, we don't prohibit it, but we highly recommend all of your presenters attend in person. This is largely logistics because when you get into a conference hotel, it doesn't have the fastest Wi-Fi in the world. And when you have a lot of people that are on their phones or whatnot, it eats away at that bandwidth, making those virtual attendees, well, it makes it very hard for them to get a good connection. So if you do, make sure that they are ready to go before your presentation starts. Don't forget your business cards. Again, this is something that I've learned from hard experience. Don't forget your business cards because people might want to talk to you. Now you can get around this by saving or projecting your contact information or including it in your presentation. But still don't forget your business cards. So here's some conference countdowns. This is for MPMA, and with other organizations like NMA, you'll have your own countdown timeline. But for MPMA, session proposals are due the 17th of January. Again, you can upload them online, but they are due the 17th. You can do, it's live now. March 1st, you will hear back from the program committee whether or not sessions have been accepted. And then those session description forms, session lead forms are due the 14th of March, right before St. Patrick's Day. The last day to withdraw, if something does happen, is the 2nd of May. We understand that things happen. Budgets might not allow for attendance. Life gets in the way. It happens. We also recognize that things happen even after the 2nd of May. So always be in good communication with MPMA or whatever organization you're committing to present to. And then finally, October 15th through the 17th, we are going to be in Olympic City, USA, Colorado Springs, Colorado, home to the dreaded Air Force Academy. Sorry, I went to the University of Wyoming. They are one of our rivals, and I will talk down on the Zoomies as much as I can. but know what your conference countdown is for whatever organization it is. Whether that's NMA, ASLH, National Council for Public History, you name it. Um, don't get lost and figure, oh, it's the 16th of January. I need to get my proposal in, or it's the 18th and I'm emailing John to beg him to let me present, see if it's not too late. Don't put yourself in that position. So I've dropped it in the chat, but we also have this QR code here. This is to our current program committee submission form for Colorado Springs. I would highly encourage everyone at NMA to take the opportunity to present to your peers across the region. April did a fantastic job of getting the word out for Omaha, and I think Omaha was one of the best conferences that we've had in a while. I know I certainly went to that cookie place behind the conference hotel way too many times. But I thoroughly enjoyed visiting Omaha, and I think Nebraska really shined at their contributions to MPMA this year. So take the opportunity to show up your neighbors to the west that you know what's going on, and definitely come to MPMA in Colorado Springs next October. So with that, ignore this QR code, but does anyone have any questions for me? Certainly rattled enough. Yeah, I can see you, Mike. I know you're judging me.
No, that's good. I really love the one of make sure you have a backup plan and that you have a laptop and all those because one of our speakers last conference for NMA, she had an emergency try to find one because I think it was lost in luggage or something like that. But yeah, if you're traveling, make sure you have a backup. That's why I like using so much of the stuff is cloud-based, between Google services for their presentations and stuff. So, see if you can bum a laptop and stream it in. Don't have it on the one singular hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
I would also add I'm someone who spent most of my professional life in academia and have had my share of academia conferences. And, again, like you kind of said, time management, practice going over like length, because there's nothing more aggravating than somebody who, you're a lot of 20 minutes and they go for 30 and that cuts into everybody's time. So don't be that person. But, definitely, kind of going over, just going over it a few times and just making sure that you're not going over. So.
All right. Well, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity and the invitation to speak for your monthly museum musings. For any of the NMA members, please feel free to reach out to me if you have questions about speaking not only at Colorado Springs, but presenting at any MPMA program in the future. And if you have, obviously reach out to your local or your state level program chair if you have questions about presenting at NMA in the future. Where is NMA going to be this next year?
It's in Beatrice, Nebraska.
All right. Well, it's a fine community, and my first museum I worked at was Dawson County, there in Lexington. So I am very familiar with and have a fond spot for NMA. So
excellent.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and I wish you all the best, and Merry Christmas to everybody, and Happy New Year.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Just a couple
you.
of things. For the NMA speakers proposal, you can submit your proposals online or to April. Now through January 31st. The conference is in Beatrice, April 13th and 14th. It looks like a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of activities and social movements as well as social gatherings. as well as I really anticipate some great speakers like we always do. And then what's coming up for the monthly musings, we have in January, Alyssa Smith from STORE, who's on here, excuse me, is going to talk in January about youth volunteers in museums. And then she's going to go back to back in February with textile storage and displays. March will be conference preview, and April is conference post game. To celebrate Jewish History Month, we're going to have Jane Rips from the Jewish Museum in Omaha. And then in June, we're going to have helping neurodivergent individuals with square holes. You might have caught their presentation at MPMA last year, and I hear it was excellent. So I'm excited to see that. But we also have several open spots. So if you know of anybody or have any suggestions, let me know. And or if you have any topic ideas, let me know. And I will find somebody to talk about it. Thank you guys all again. And again, this recording will be up on the NMA website and YouTube channel shortly. Thank you.